it's difficult because you don't want to sit there and listen to hours and hours of, I don't know, something you don't really like very much. I'm lucky. I like almost anything to listen to, depending on my mood. But yeah, I think it's so important that you kind of get to know them and you focus that around your students, and you know, put that into the class for them, not for you. Again, I guess with all subjects it's the same. It's all about knowing your students and that. But anyway, so we met in March, I think. Yeah. Was it March? It was March. I think it was around March, that's for sure. We met in March. Now, this is actually the first time we've spoken, but it also kind of isn't. Now, this is what I love about the internet and social media and all these things. I feel like I know you. I've heard you speak. I've seen you speak. So I know what you sound like and what you look like, but we've never actually spoken properly. But we met at TESOL Spain, which is a conference, I was going to say here in Spain, but it kind of isn't really, is it?
Somewhere online.
Yeah, I just remembered you're not the first person who isn't a mother tongue speaker, because I just remembered the first person was another person I met at TESOL Spain, Militia, who we met, Militza, sorry, who we all met in this kind of group chat. Now, I love conferences. I love the whole atmosphere. I love the whole vibe. And the TESOL Spain was the second one I'd been to that was online, but it was the first one that I'd been to that was online, and it was really prepared to be online. The first one that I went to was kind of online because it had to be, and it was a bunch of people recorded some sessions and people watched them. But I loved how it was set up. I loved how it had the app and we could all connect and chat about playlists, about just nonsense, really, and really connect. And for me, it was one of the best ways of networking, because I've mentioned this on LinkedIn and other places. What I used to do at a conference would be I'd look for the name, and if it's somebody I liked, that would be my first choice. And then I'd kind of look a bit further. I'd look at the title of what they were saying. I'd be like, okay, maybe that's interesting. And then if I was still lost, I'd look at the blurb and the writing. Whereas what we did with TESOL Spain, like, I built connections beforehand, and I was like, I want to see her speaking. I want to see him speaking. And I found all these people that I wanted to see speaking. And I'm going to be honest, when I saw the title of your talk at first, I was like, I don't really want to go and see that. But then when I kind of met you, and it wasn't, I'm not because of the title, not because it wasn't a good subject, but it wasn't something that in that moment of my teaching career, in that moment of my teaching life, that I really wanted to go and see. It happens. But then I met you online, and I spoke to you, and I was like, I want to go and see that now. It was really good.
Thank you.
It was brilliant.
No, yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, the event was really well prepared, and it gave you that feeling that it really resembled an in-person event. I don't know if you feel the same.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, the meet and greet, the chats here and there, it really resembled that. And even better, because then you had a room to talk about certain topics, like, as you said, nonsense, teacher chit-chatting. And that was really, really meaningful and nice. And yeah, we even created a collaborative playlist, you know. And you told me how much you love this band that I never remember, that I don't like so much, because they sing like they are talking.
I can't remember which band it was now. It could be Blur. No, you said you liked Blur, didn't you?
I like Blur.
Yeah. Who was it? I can't remember who it was now. I remembered we talked about Blur, but that's the only one I can remember now.
This famous song that talks about the girl in a supermarket. She was very...
Pulp.
Yes.
Yeah. It was Britpop. That's my time. That was when I was in my heyday. I was, 11, 12. I was listening to Pulp, Blur, and Oasis. That was the moment that I blossomed. as it were.
I remember that.
I think that, yeah, even further than, like, it did resemble the traditional conference, but my issue is now I'm not particularly shy, as you may or may not know. But when I go to a conference, I immediately kind of look towards people that I know. You know, if it's a face-to-face conference, I'll go over and I'll be like, I know that person, I'll go speak to them. I know that person, I'll go speak to them. And then I'll maybe look around the stalls a bit. And I don't know, I feel a bit uneasy with just chatting to somebody for no reason. Like, if I've seen their talk, then great, I'll go and, you know, get a bit of a fanboy moment and have a chat with them. I've done that a few times. But the great thing about this was you just talk to anyone and they were all there, and there was none of that first moment embarrassment of, oh, do I speak to, I don't know, or are they speaking to someone else? Or I don't. It took all of that away, and I don't know, I really loved that, the ability to just, you know, connect with anyone. And it meant that you could go to the conference, because I don't imagine it would have been very easy for you to have gone to Madrid.
Yeah, no, totally not possible. Yeah, no, at all. Yeah, you're right.
So it just kind of spreads the wings. And this links in really nicely to remote teaching, and I'm going to say it, remote teaching today. Yeah, see what I did there? Yeah, very clever. For anybody who's listening out there, that is a great Instagram handle that you need to pay attention to. Go and follow it. Definitely not Michaela's Instagram handle, obviously. So yeah, remote teaching today. Now,
yeah.
I mentioned in one of the posts, my talk at TESOL Spain was actually about Zoom games and Zoom activities, because my talks always kind of focus around practical ideas to have in the classroom. And I had taught online prior to the pandemic and prior to the lockdown. So for me, it was, you know, it was something I'd done before. I was like, you know, I can do that. I like it. And then the pandemic came around. I did a bit more. And my wife was teaching online. And a good friend of mine who I spoke at the conference with, Ewan, had taught online. And I was like, yeah, I'm good at this. I know this. I'm pretty good. But then I actually discovered you and realized that I didn't know very much about remote teaching. I was like, wow, there are people who know so much more than me. And yeah, and it's something, as I mentioned earlier, that it's great to meet somebody who has a passion for it rather than somebody who does it out of obligation. So what is it that you love most about teaching remotely?
That's actually a very good question. I want to pick up something you mentioned earlier about remote teaching. Is that I would say that the best thing about remote teaching is that you can reach people, you can meet people you wouldn't if it wasn't because of technology. At the moment, for example, I'm teaching kids in all across Uruguay, and that I wouldn't be able to teach if I wasn't, you know, in a specific place. So when you teach remotely, your screen just represents a window to a different city, a different country, or even, you know, a continent, like right now.
Mm-hmm.
And you can travel to your students' country, they can travel to yours, and you learn from each other's cultures, each other's backgrounds. And that's so enriching. I love that part.
It really is. Also, you can teach in your underpants, which, you know, everybody loves teaching in their underpants, obviously. Just to clarify, I am wearing trousers. For those of you at home who are listening, I am wearing trousers. It's okay. Yeah, as is Michaela. That's one of my things I like to joke about, obviously. I tend to wear trousers. You know, what if you have to stand up in the middle of a class? You don't want to. Maybe swimming shorts is about as far as I go. In fact, I have done a few classes with that. Now, I love remote teaching, and as you just said there, it's that ability to connect with other people, and with Pearson and BBC, we have the live classes, which is a way of. I teach here. To everybody who's listening, I am pointing at my office, and yeah, it's a way of me bringing this to other people, but also them bringing what they have. So there'll be classes where I'm teaching in Turkey, in Brazil, in Argentina, in Peru, all at the same time. So we can all bring our own ideas. We can all bring these different, this opportunity to bring it all to the classroom. Now, these live classes were amazing during the pandemic because it was a way of teachers helping their students connect to something new, something different, rather than just the same routine every day. But there is one thing. That thing of when you go into your classroom and you can close the door and suddenly all the bad things are kind of the other side of the door. I find that a bit more difficult with remote teaching because I close the door, but the problem's still on the other side. Like, so how do you differentiate between your home life and your work life?
That's a challenge. That's a challenge when you teach from home. It is. I used to teach. I mean, I started teaching remotely myself at the office. I used to go to the office, and then I had my teaching point where I called, and yeah. But then, of course, the lockdown happened, and yeah, I think it's all about boundaries. To know when exactly your work starts and when it finishes, and not or try not to work beyond those hours. I think that's really really key. And yeah, you can shut the door, but you can shut down your computer, and unplug and do something you like, do something different, because yeah, mental health really really matters. So
Yeah, absolutely right. Now, that's something I really struggle with, especially working with different people in different continents. So I'll be, like I said this week, I've been working with people in South America. So I'll get a message at a reasonable time. It'll be 7 o'clock in the afternoon, in the evening. But I try and finish it at 5:30ish, like the latest. So at 7, I'll get a message, and that's at 2 o'clock in the afternoon for someone in Argentina, and you don't really think about it. I sent an email to somebody this morning when I woke up at 6 o'clock. I sent an email thinking, it's okay, they're behind. That's 1 o'clock in the morning. I hope their email didn't have a sound on it and I didn't wake them up. They didn't respond immediately, so that was okay. But yeah, so it is finding those boundaries. It's really difficult when you're working remotely. We're going to pop for a news and an ad break now. When we come back, we're going to talk more deeply about your some anecdotes, and we're going to hear some things about you, about what you've done teaching online, and a bit more about some advice for teachers, because, like you said, a lot of people are feeling the kind of burn of it. Now, I work remotely, obviously. This is, you can see behind, but in the pic you can see, nobody else can. Behind me is just full of renewable English paraphernalia everywhere, like my plants growing.
Background.
Yeah, exactly. We've even got an old school camera, like an analog camera, because my wife's a photographer, and she's back there. She's got her old school camera as well, which she's she's learning how to do that as well. So yeah, when we come back, maybe we'll get some tips from you, which would be nice, and yeah, some anecdotes and some great ideas from you, some great stories about this time teaching. So you've got about 6 minutes. That gives you time to do anything you want to do, basically. You can go and learn to juggle if you want, if you don't already know. I love juggling. There you go. It's 6 minutes, learn to juggle. We're going to go off for the news now and some adverts. We'll be back very shortly.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and this is Teachers Talk Radio News with Megan Goods.
This is your latest Teachers Talk Radio News. The government has announced plans to fund senior mental health leads training in all state schools and colleges in England. The training programme will help staff to promote mental health and well-being in their schools, to identify pupils who need support, and to work effectively with local mental health services for children. This funding comes in addition to the Wellbeing for Education Recovery Programme launched in August of last year. COVID cases in Britain totalled 31,564 on the 21st of September, a rise of almost 1/5 in a week. Deaths have also risen by 10%. The latest figures have been attributed to students heading back to school. Over 122,000 children in England alone were out of school for COVID-related reasons last week. The results of the Children's Commissioner's Big Ask survey revealed that 71% of 9 to 17-year-olds and 94% of 6 to 8-year-olds were happy with their life overall. The surprisingly positive survey results have led to the naming of current students as the survivor generation. Far from snowflakes, the Commissioner said, these young people have been heroic. That was your latest Teachers Talk Radio News.
Need support with your phonics teaching? Did you know Oxford University Press now has 3 DFE validated programs to help you? Read Write Ink Phonics, Floppy's Phonics, and the brand new Essential Letters and Sounds. Essential Letters and Sounds will get all your children reading well, quickly, using phonics books you may already have in your classroom. Developed by the Knowledge Schools Trust English Hub, it's affordable, easy to use, and makes teaching phonics with letters and sounds more effective. Whatever your school's phonics needs, Oxford has the solution. To find out more and receive support from your expert local educational consultant, visit oxfordprimary.com/phonics. Do you struggle with people pleasing? Is it a constant battle managing different and difficult personalities? Why not inspire, challenge, and empower your team through the MAL CPD Essential Coaching Skills for School Leaders course, or gain practical skills to become a strong and compassionate leader through the Assertive Leadership and the Emotionally Intelligent Leader courses. All MAL CPD courses are accredited by the Institute of Leadership and Management. Find out more at www.malcpd.com. Every teacher loves stationery, right? Imagine getting a selection of fun, beautiful, and unique stationery items designed and selected especially for teachers, delivered through your door every month. You need to check out teacherslovestationery.club.
I'm always so excited when the box arrives. It's such a treat.
My Teachers Love Stationery Club box is just a little treat to myself every month.
It's always full of delightful and surprising items, including some really good quality stationery brands.
And because you never know what you're going to get, it makes it even more fun and special when you get it.
Visit teacherslovestationery.club and enter the code TTRadio when you buy your first stationery box to save £2 today. teacherslovestationery.club.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. So this is something I ask all of the guests, something very important. As you heard that advert there, teachers do love stationery. It is a fact. What's your favorite piece of stationery, Michaela?
Wow. I like all of them, but I would say my favorite are markers, especially the Sharpies.
Yeah, Sharpies are good. I always say it, I'm a Post-it man. I love Post-its. These are really good for face-to-face classes. Not great for remote classes, but good for learning.
I was about to say that. As a remote teacher, I use online Post-its. Oh.
On your Jamboards and stuff like that, they're fantastic, yeah. And even better, you're saving the environment.
Exactly. You see, you should incorporate them.
Yeah, I definitely should. I definitely should. It's a horrible addiction that I have now. What was I talking about? I was. Somebody asked me to make a quick video. For when you're speaking or something, make a quick video, and I was like, okay, I'll make a quick video. But it was a 2-minute video in the end, and I didn't want to write a script for it. But it was a bit longer than I'd hoped. So what I did was I wrote a little bit of the script and just stuck it on the screen on Post-its. So that was an interesting use for them. But I always use both sides of my Post-its. I use them first to stick, but then I use them as like notes afterwards. So anyway.
So yeah, I also like, but it's crazy. But I like taking down notes on pen and paper when I'm preparing webinars and trainings. I have these. Well, you can see only you, but I like writing down notes here. It's like I don't know. It's better for my brain. It's like I feel like ideas stick better if I'm writing them down in pen and paper. But it's only for that.
I used my notebook for everything, like my ideas, but also for my to-do lists and stuff like that. I write it down there. I also have a to-do list on my phone just in case. But I'm a calendar guy. I've got a calendar, so an actual physical calendar. So obviously I do also have my Google Calendar, and then I've got my Apple Calendar where certain things save. But I never look at those ever. Everything that's important is up on my calendar on the wall there. So I don't know. I'm old-fashioned in that respect, but it doesn't make much sense to use that because you don't get any reminders from there. And if you forget to write something down, then it's game over.
Yeah, but still it's visual. I mean, it works for you, and that's important.
Exactly. And I have a calendar that my mum sent me of ospreys, which is a seabird that nest just down the road from her in Wales. So she sent me a calendar of those this year, and the money from that went towards the upkeep of their. They have a live stream as well. So my mum's a wonderful lady. She's very interesting, but she live streams ospreys in their nest. So you go into her house and you can just hear this in the background. It's like, what is that? Oh, that's just the ospreys. What? She's got it live streaming on her computer. Okay, Mum.
Well, I've got a colleague with the same affection for offspring, so I totally get the idea.
Amazing. So let's get away from calendars and stationery for a moment.
Yeah.
And let's get back to the topic at hand, the subject that I have called you here. I have summoned you for today. Remote teaching. I put why it's still important post-pandemic. Because I know not all schools, I know there are some schools still some areas that are still in lockdown. But most places, particularly in the UK, where a lot of people are listening, they're back in school now. So it's almost like remote teaching is a distant memory and a thing of the past. I disagree. I completely disagree. I think it's mostly the kind of, I don't know, traditional state schools where it's now possible to go back into class. It's gone to being, right, we did that. That's done now. We can move on with normal teaching. I dispute that because I love remote teaching for many reasons. And I think that it should have a place now more than ever in traditional schools, in traditional classes, even if it's just to connect students to other students in other countries, to connect students to other teachers in other countries. For example, if you're learning French, why not have a French teacher from France come in and teach a class? Just do that. It's so possible to do now. It's so easy to do. It's so available. So yeah, what do you think about remote teaching now?
Well, I mean, I think it's okay. It's great that, I mean, schools are open now, and that's fantastic and all that. But I don't think we should forget everything we learned, because in a way we learned a lot about, web tools. I mean, the asynchronous part of the lesson all of a sudden turned out to be digital. And I think that those tools are fantastic. And most important of all, I think we trained learners, or we were forced to train learners in digital literacies. And that's something that shouldn't be stopped, It should go on, actually, because those are the skills that our learners, our students, need to be inserted in, in the when they graduate,
Exactly.
I can't get the words. But
No, of course, I know what you mean. It's a life skill, isn't it? It's something they need. It's a
Working
21st
well.
century skill that we need now. We need to be able to do these things, and when they've finished school, when they're at university, they're things that they need. So I think the point that you mentioned there, the asynchronous side of classes, let's call it the homework, for for want of a better word. Like it's something that's developed so rapidly over such a short space of time. I think we can do away with go home and do workbook page number 7. We don't need that anymore. That's not. I never liked doing that as a teacher. I found it was that the students didn't enjoy it, but students do enjoy computer-based activities. Students do enjoy working on a video project or working on something like that. And it's so easy to do collaborative writings now as well. You just open Google and you can work together straight away. It's all collaborative learning. They're all collaborative activities that you can use and you can work together with them. So I really do think now more than ever, we need to be taking advantage of what we learn. And as you say, we, as teachers, I think we are the most malleable, the bendiest of all the professions. We can adapt to any situation, and we proved during lockdown, when it went one day to the next, suddenly you're in your classroom, the next day you're on a computer. And we learned so much in that time. We learned so many new skills. We learned about different apps and ideas. We took all of this on board. I think there's a real danger of people just kind of forgetting that. And one great thing about it was it really pushed people with their professional development. I know a lot of teachers, they get to a stage and they just kind of stop. They're like, I'm teaching now, I'm here, I know this, I can do the same thing every single year. You're going to start hating your job if you do that. You need to keep building, you need to keep improving. And I think if you continue to focus on this kind of digital aspect of it, it will really help. So what would you say are some of your favorite apps and websites to use? And what can you recommend to teachers who are maybe back in the classroom and looking to spice up their asynchronous classroom? And also for those wonderful teachers who are still teaching remotely. I'm not saying that people who aren't teaching remotely aren't wonderful. You are all wonderful. All teachers are wonderful. So some of your favorite websites or apps or something like that.
Yeah, well, I think that, technology brought a huge advantage to teaching. As I said before, if you are teaching in a classroom, a face-to-face classroom, it doesn't mean you can't use these tools. You still can use them, and you can find a way you can combine them with your traditional methods or style of teaching. That's all about it, finding a happy medium. So yeah, my favorite apps. So I like very much Breaks News English, because it's got news. A very sort of a short article, but then you've got plenty of activities based on the same piece of news. You've got
so many. It's so good. I've used that website so much. There's so many materials in there, and it's just like, and it also has the way you can listen to it as well, so you can listen along to the reading. It's absolutely incredible.
Exactly. And you can also find the same article graded for different levels. So you don't have to worry about that so much. It's already there. You have different listenings with different accents and different speeds. My students love that.
It's so good as well for like a classroom where you have students with different abilities, because you can just in that moment, you don't have to like do a big song and dance about it either. You can just show them the link to the maybe they need to do a slightly easier level, but another student's a bit more advanced, so they can do it a slightly more difficult. They're all still learning the same thing. They've all still got the same like basic knowledge. They're all still getting the same article, but you can teach different levels within the same classroom, which is something that's really difficult to do.
Indeed. Yeah, definitely. And I also like very much getting all my students to participate. I've got some really large groups of students. They are sort of around 30, big classrooms. So how can you, I'm really awful at names, so I forget. I can remember faces very well, but I'm awful at names. So what can I do? So my best friend is the random name picker, or the wheel of names. You just Google wheel of names and you will see like a roulette. And then what I do is I upload my list of students, and then I can save the list for every class. And I just, make sure everybody is there, and then I spin the wheel, and bam. I get everybody to say at least one word in English in my lessons. Of course, you're not going to get students who are shy to, force them to participate, but, at least something,
Mm-hmm.
And it brings, color, amusement to the learning environment.
And nervousness as well. They're like, is it going to be me? I don't know if it's going to be me.
Yeah, they are really focused, and they have a really, this level of expectation is really high.
Mm-hmm. I love, I am a names guy. I love like trying to learn students' names as quickly as possible. I would challenge myself with that when I was working in a secondary school and a primary school as well. I'd be teaching, I had up to 13 different classes. So I'd try and learn everybody's names as quickly as possible. That was one of my obsessions. But what I also love doing in my online classes, I love getting people to just change their name just for fun. Get them to select a different name. So if we talked about this in TESOL Spain, if we're teaching the past, that everybody can get their own name. They can be DJ were, or Captain. I've lost, or Captain Put. There you go. But you can also kind of relate it to what you're learning at the time as well. So. Yeah, and you can get students to have whatever name they want. And something that I found it's great as well with like online classes, they can change their names in the moment. It's just sometimes a name will stick. So I did the talk zooming around. I did it in Berlin, and the person who asked me to lead the session, she changed her name to DJ Tomato. Because we were talking about things you'd find in the kitchen. And ever since then, whenever we speak online, we use our name from that class. So she has remained DJ Tomato, and she is like a wonderful, incredibly like highly qualified teacher. She won the TESOL Teacher of the Year last year. She's absolutely amazing, out of this world. But to me, now she's DJ Tomato to me now, and I love that we've got that kind of In Spanish, we say confianza. What would you say? It is like rapport, isn't it? It's almost like rapport, but yeah. You have the confidence to speak to somebody like that. But I do think that, you know, it's good to have a way of knowing everybody's names, and that wheel is a great way of learning them, I guess.
Yeah, it's fantastic, and yeah, it's a good strategy. Do you have like any tips or anything that you used when you challenge yourself to learn everybody's names?
Well, what I do, I pick when I talk to them, I get them, so I'll look and I say, "Oh, hi, Michaela. What's your favorite color?" While I'm looking at you in your eyes and remembering your eye color, and you would say, "What's your favorite color, Michaela?"
My favorite color is red.
So Michaela said her favorite color was red. So if Michaela's favorite color is red, Michaela, can you ask your partner Pepe what Pepe's favorite color is? So the first time I say their name, I try and say it 4, 5, 6, 7 times, because otherwise you go and you say, "Oh, so what's your name?" "My name's Michaela." "Good. What's your name?" "My name's Pepe." "What's your name?" "My name's Clive." Suddenly you've forgotten the first one. So I just try and build that first contact I have with a student to be a little bit longer, a little bit bigger, and extend it out a bit further. And yeah, that's the kind of, so I try and repeat it at least 4 or 5 times in that first lesson. I also try and remember the color of their eyes, and I also try and remember if they're left or right-handed. So, so I'm left-handed. So whenever I see someone else who's left-handed, instantly I remember that person, because, you know, we're so rare. So yeah, they're my kind of tips of remembering somebody's name, is repeat it as many times as possible. And then, like look for something distinctive to kind of lock onto their name. I do have a friend who makes like mnemonic devices. So they'd be like, you know, they try and rhyme it. I'm trying to think of something to make Michaela rhyme with something. But, you know, they'd make up little rhymes and things like that. Michaela, nothing I can tell her about remote teaching.
Yo.
Exactly. So little things like that.
I think that's so important, because remembering or addressing learners by their names makes them feel special, makes them feel heard, taken into account, and that's what's effective teaching about, you know.
Yeah, and it is. It's that horrible feeling of if you get to your 3rd or 4th class with somebody and you suddenly think, "I can't remember your name." It's like you don't want to just call them mate for the rest of the year. It's like, you know, it's something you need to. It needs to be. You need to kind of address it. But so you've mentioned a couple of your favorite things to use.
I'll tell you one more.
Tell me more. Tell me more.
Yes. So yes, I've discovered a tool to make videos interactive, you know, because sometimes you share video with your students, and then maybe they are not so, you know, they're too long, or they are not interactive enough, or they just, you know, lose their attention span. So Vizia is an app that lets you add quizzes to videos.
Oh,
so,
what? Yeah. What's it called?
Vizia. So V as in Val, I-Z-I-A.
Amazing. Thank you very much. I'll be using that one. Tell me more about it.
It's nice because it also lets you see your students' answer, and also who's seen the video. You know, you can follow up on that. So yeah, it's really good.
That is amazing. What about, so I like to try and set projects for my students, and you know, I go down the traditional route of, you know, upload it to Instagram and we create a hashtag in the class. Now, obviously, it depends on the age of your students for that. For older teens, perhaps we'll come up with a hashtag in the class and, you know, see what likes students can get and if anyone can get it shared. So I have that kind of idea. And also I haven't got onto TikTok yet, but it's something that I'm encouraging now with other students to do, like to use their creativity to make videos and stuff like that. And one of the classes I'm doing this year for the Pearson and BBC Live classes is all about creativity and social media. So there's those, but there's also things like Canva, which I know is amazing for creating, visuals and stuff like that, but I've not yet used it in a class, but you can use it collaboratively. So I don't know. I'm thinking of exploring that option of getting students to do that. Would you do that? Have you done that?
Yes, I've actually have a recording webinar about that, and where I talk about it. I think it's very, very useful to take advantage of the layouts. In the webinar, I talk about restaurant reviews. So you have like the template where students can go and get creative, design their own website, and they can also practice writing, in a very creative way that simulates, the real world. It is a real world. I mean, but you know what I mean. But yeah.
I love writing restaurant reviews. I got a bit obsessed with TripAdvisor a few years back, and I wrote a review on every single restaurant I went to. By the end of it, I was getting a bit. My reviews weren't 100% serious. Let's say, there were. I didn't say anything bad about the restaurants or anything like that, but they were all, very humorous. So whenever I would go to the restaurant review class for my students, with first certificate and stuff like that, you have to write quite a long one, but TripAdvisor is nice and short. So I'd always start with that, and I'd be like, just go and read this guy's reviews. And they'd read it, and they'd be like, this guy sounds like an idiot. And it's like, yep, that's me.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Cheers, guys. They're like, ooh. So where can we find this webinar about using Canva?
Well, it's in my profile, in my Instagram. You've got a link where it says recorded webinars. It's for free. It's also available in my YouTube channel. That is called Remote Teaching Today as well.
Very clever.
So in the comment section, you've got the materials, the free templates, the slides of the presentation, and ideas for teaching as well.
Amazing. I know what I'm borrowing tonight.
Half an hour webinars. There is one on Jamboard, this on Canva, and one on Google Forms as well. Have you ever used Google Forms?
I have, but I at first I struggled a bit. But I do know. I'm going to be honest. I know that you've got that webinar there.
You need to.
I did some stalking. So yeah, I've used some various bits and pieces with Google, but it wasn't the most successful in the classroom. But I need to watch your webinar to catch up on that as well. But you mentioned another one, Jamboard. Now, this is one of your webinars that I have seen, and I've seen a few other people as well. Now, Jamboard is brilliant. It's so good, and it's not only, again, for somebody who's teaching online. You can use it with your face-to-face classes, and then it's something that they can all refer back to. I really would thoroughly recommend watching that webinar. I mean, the others are obviously awesome as well, because Michaela is awesome. The Jamboard one is super, super good. And it's not just a place for putting Post-it notes. It's so much more than that. It's so much more. So I really do encourage everybody to check that out. Go and have a look. Go and find her on both YouTube and Instagram, of course. Now we're going to nip off for the news and the adverts again. When we come back, I want some of your best and worst stories from teaching online, if that's okay.
Yes.
Fantastic. Excellent news. So I'm going to go off to the news now, and I'll see you in a few minutes.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and this is Teachers Talk Radio News with Megan Goods.
This is your latest Teachers Talk Radio News. The government has announced plans to fund senior mental health leads training in all state schools and colleges in England. The training programme will help staff to promote mental health and well-being in their schools, to identify pupils who need support, and to work effectively with local mental health services for children. This funding comes in addition to the Wellbeing for Education Recovery Programme launched in August of last year. COVID cases in Britain totalled 31,564 on the 21st of September, a rise of almost 1/5 in a week. Deaths have also risen by 10%. The latest figures have been attributed to students heading back to school. Over 122,000 children in England alone were out of school for COVID-related reasons last week. The results of the Children's Commissioner's Big Ask survey revealed that 71% of 9 to 17-year-olds and 94% of 6 to 8-year-olds were happy with their life overall. The surprisingly positive survey results have led to the naming of current students as the survivor generation. Far from snowflakes, the Commissioner said, these young people have been heroic. That was your latest Teachers Talk Radio News.
Need support with your phonics teaching? Did you know Oxford University Press now has 3 DFE validated programs to help you? Read Write Inc Phonics, Floppy's Phonics, and the brand new Essential Letters and Sounds. Essential Letters and Sounds will get all your children reading well, quickly, using phonics books you may already have in your classroom. Developed by the Knowledge Schools Trust English Hub, it's affordable, easy to use, and makes teaching phonics with letters and sounds more effective. Whatever your school's phonics needs, Oxford has the solution. To find out more and receive support from your expert local educational consultant, visit oxfordprimary.com/phonics. Do you struggle with people pleasing? Is it a constant battle managing different and difficult personalities? Why not inspire, challenge, and empower your team through the MAL CPD Essential Coaching Skills for School Leaders course, or gain practical skills to become a strong and compassionate leader through the Assertive Leadership and the Emotionally Intelligent Leader courses. All MAL CPD courses are accredited by the Institute of Leadership and Management. Find out more at www.malcpd.com. Every teacher loves stationery, right? Imagine getting a selection of fun, beautiful, and unique stationery items designed and selected especially for teachers, delivered through your door every month. You need to check out teacherslovestationery.club.
I'm always so excited when the box arrives. It's such a treat.
My Teachers Love Stationery Club box is just a little treat to myself every month.
It's always full of delightful and surprising items, including some really good quality stationery brands.
And because you never know what you're going to get, it makes it even more fun and special when you get it.
Visit teacherslovestationery.club and enter the code TTRadio when you buy your first stationery box to save £2 today. teacherslovestationery.club.
And we're back. Hello there. I have to say, so after last week, prior to last week, I was having so many issues with the sound and the downloads of the different the jingles and the so on and so forth. It wasn't working perfectly. But then last week, my interview was recorded, so I couldn't do the show properly. and I had to cut the show off halfway. So this is the first time, Michaela, you're here officially with everything working properly. I think this is my 12th show now, so it's taken me a while, but I've finally done it, and I feel like I've conquered the technology. Always learning, as we like to say. Anyway, that's just me talking about my little victory of the day. I like to try and have a victory every day. So we talked about stories. What are some of maybe your best and your worst stories?
Well, yeah, about remote teaching. I mentioned one ago, but now I would like to tell you about I think it's the most special one that I've lived so far. That is this moment when you meet your remote students, your online students. And well, that happened before the pandemic when we could travel, of course. I traveled several times to Uruguay to meet my kids, my students there. So I remember once when I arrived at school, and the kid said, "Hi, teacher. Oh, you look much shorter than on camera." Like, oh, cheers, mate.
Usually I'm about 3 inches tall, and now I'm...
What? Yeah. I don't know. She probably imagined that I was like really tall, but yeah, that's not the case.
No, you're not really tall?
I'm not really tall. Sorry to disappoint you.
It's okay. I remember when I was in South America, I banged my head 11 times in 1 week. Now, I'm not sure if that's because everybody else in South America is very short or because I'm stupid. I mean, I think it's a combination of the two. But 1 week, I just kept banging my head, like getting off a bus, bang, walking through a door, bang, walking along the street, smash my head on a sign. That probably explains a lot, to be honest.
Everything is designed for us, you know. So yeah,
It's
not
true.
many tall people around.
It's very true.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that was very special. I mean, meeting them, it's very nice because it's crazy. They treat you like a rock star, you know. And the whole school. I mean, the teachers. They made cakes and sandwiches and everything was really nice, and everybody was around me asking me questions, and like, oh, what currency do they use in Argentina? You know, do you have some coins and notes to show me? And then I showed them, and I was, oh wow, it's different from us, you know. And that sort of exchanges was really nice, was lovely.
And what are the kind of differences in the way you speak Spanish in Argentina and Uruguay? Are there big differences in the accents? Because I know that there's a huge difference in Spanish to Argentina and Spanish to Uruguay, but instead of y for llave, you say je for llave, don't you? Like llave is like keys. But is there a big difference between Argentina and Uruguay?
Not a big difference. No, it's very slight, but there are some gaps here and there. One example is trainers, you know, sneakers. So they say championes, and in Argentina we say zapatillas.
Well, here you'd say zapatillas.
Okay, you see?
Yeah.
So it's quite that's different.
It's strange because it's so close, isn't it? They're so close. Well, obviously they share a border, but yeah, small changes.
Miles away, yeah, just a couple of miles away. And then there is we say vos, and they use tú for you. Okay.
Like here in Spain, we say tú. We don't say vos. So for me, whenever I speak to anybody in like anybody who's from Argentina and they say vos, and it's just like, but then I'm learning Portuguese at the moment, and obviously you is like você as well. So I don't know. It's very strange. But also I find it really weird when people from generally in South America in general, they refer to people as ustedes. Like I would always say vosotros, like for other people. But yeah, it feels really formal. So it's funny those small differences. One of my funniest moments in class, actually, it came about, well, because somebody had told me a great idea to help your shy students is to get them to kind of try and be somebody else. They can take on another persona. And I really found that remote teaching brought the best out of, particularly my shyer teenagers. With younger students, I think there's definitely a time and a place for remote teaching for most ages. I think it works brilliantly for adults, particularly adults who are learning a language. I think it works incredibly for them because usually they have to get home from work, feed their kids, get ready, go out, get to a language academy, and then it's 8:30, 9 at night, and nobody's brain is ready to learn at that stage. So remote teaching for them is brilliant because they can just feed their kids and sit down at home. It's a bit earlier. They can find it easier to connect. And again, for teens, I think it's amazing. Teens who are moving towards a much more kind of technological generation. They are much happier with all these different types of technology, with Jamboard, with Canva, with all of these different apps and where is it? We've got Vizia as well. There you go. I've remembered. I wrote it on a Post-it. So for teens, I think it's great for that aspect. But even more so when it comes to teens, they're in their own space. They're at home. They're surrounded by their things, and they can really come out of their shell. They can, when they're in the classroom, there's that fear of going wrong. But online, they can turn their camera off if they want to speak sometimes. They don't have the same shame. Now, one brilliant thing a friend of mine told me was a good idea, as I mentioned, was to pretend that there's somebody else. Now, I mentioned BTS a bit earlier. One of her students is a big fan of BTS, and he had a life-size cutout of Jimin from BTS. And he would come to class and he would be Jimin. So he'd be sitting behind this life-size cutout and people would be talking to him as if he was Jimin. And he would be responding, in this whole new character. So yeah, I decided to do that with my students. And yeah, one of them decided that he wanted to create his own Pokemon. And we know Pokemon don't speak a great deal. They basically say their own name. So he spent the whole class saying his own new Pokemon name. That was it. I was like, well, that backfired, didn't it? I was like, So yeah, for the whole class, the whole rest of the day, all he would say, I can't remember what his invented name was now. I feel bad, but yeah, just imagine somebody saying Pikachu over and over and over again. It was horrible, but it was quite hilarious. So yeah, I think that works, but maybe not the best idea. So do you have any other tips and tricks for teachers who are teaching remotely and maybe they're feeling a bit burnt out by it, and what should they do?
Nice. I think you said something earlier that was very powerful and important, is that we need to keep on evolving and learning and improving in order not to hate what we do. And that I totally agree with you in that sense. And I think that the major advantage of remote teaching is that you can easily record your lessons. And I mean, you can ask your students for permission if they are adults or they are parents, if they are kids, of course. But the point is, lesson recordings are so valuable, are so important, because You can then carry out self-observations to identify strong, weak points, and then you can improve your own teaching practices. You can focus something that you would like to do differently. You could do better, and you can also replay a lesson to focus on your students' performance, and then to be better able to to assess their progress. You can also share the recording with an experienced colleague and ask for feedback. The possibilities are endless as long as you take advantage of these, and you need to find something that you like about your job and then focus on that, improve, and I think that gives you a brand new perspective and purpose.
I couldn't agree more. I remember the first time I did self-observation was one of the most difficult things to negotiate in my life, because it was in a classroom. I had a mate there, well, a fellow teacher in there, recording the class on his iPad, and the battery ran out halfway through, so he had to get like another iPad to continue recording it. And it was such a nightmare, because we then had to like download them, and it was quite a while back. So then you had to download it, and if it wasn't onto a Mac, it was more difficult then as well. So it was so tricky to do, and then like sitting there and watching it, and had to put the videos together, and it was a real tricky situation. It was really annoying to do. So this must have been 6 years ago. But now it's so easy. It's so easy. You just have to press one button. You ask for permission first, but then you just have to press that one button, and it's so easy to flick throughout the class and see certain areas that you kind of remember. Was that bit okay? I'm not sure. I don't remember. You can skip to and from that. So I think that's a brilliant piece of advice, to be honest. It's a bit awkward watching yourself at first. Nobody likes the sound of their own voice. I mean, except Morgan Freeman. Obviously, he does.
It's annoying. Sometimes I watch my lessons on mute,
Oh, yeah.
because it's so annoying. But yeah, you can play the sound in the parts of your students' production, for example. But yeah, you have endless of possibilities, as I said before.
Now,
so
another question. So your English is exceptional, absolutely exceptional. It's out of this world good English. It's amazing. And I dream to get to that level with my Spanish. Now, I've been living here for a long time. I've been living here for 11 years now. My Spanish is pretty good. It's nowhere near like I don't have the fluency, and so some of the structures that you use just so naturally. It's just mind blowing. Your English is better than my English, for a start. No, it really the grammatical structures that you use just so naturally. It's exceptional, and it's something that when I look at teachers who don't have English as their mother tongue, and I look at them, and when I speak to them, I can really see the massive benefit that their students would have, like over having a teacher who has their like English as their mother tongue. I don't think, I don't know. I think it's much better in a lot of respect, a lot better to have somebody who has experienced the learning process, who has gone through it, and is that kind of, is that role model, that shining star. Like they can look up and say, wow, look how well my teacher speaks English. Like, this is incredible. I want to be like that. That's the way I see it. And when it comes to the way I learn Spanish, I learned it a lot with speaking to people in Spanish and stuff. But what I saw was other English American people speaking in Spanish. I looked at them and I thought, I want to be like that. I want to be able to speak Spanish like that. I didn't look at a Spanish person and think, I want to speak Spanish like you. I thought, I'll never speak Spanish like you, because I'll always have an accent. I'll always this, that, and the other. I want to be able to do it like a non-native Spanish speaker. So that was always my dream. So that must really be so inspirational for your students. Have you ever studied abroad, or have you ever been to other English-speaking countries?
Not really, but I'm pretty much obsessed with good language. I mean, good English, speaking good English, and I never stop taking down notes on good expressions, interesting language that I find. Yesterday I bought this book. It's called Short Stories of Today. But I'm always finding books. It's a collection of short stories. So I'm always reading in English, always, and looking for new expressions. Like, I'm pretty much obsessed. And yeah, as you say, I try to transmit this passion, this obsession, with my students. And I think they kind of they follow my path, especially my adult students. And it's all about that, like being really immersed in the culture as much as you can. And yeah, reading, listening in English, listening to music, watching, series, movies in English, subtitles in English. So you are listening and you're reading at the same time, and taking the notes, always taking notes of new words, interesting expressions, and using them. So whatever I write an email, I'll try to use a new expression, a new grammar structure, as you said. And I like posh English. So
It's just incredible to see and to witness. And how much of your day would you say is spent in English as opposed to in Spanish?
That's a very good point. I think that I would say 6-8 hours a day I spend like working in English. So that's maybe that's where it comes from.
That's amazing. And how much of that? How often do you get like interference? So if you're speaking in Spanish, do you ever get where you're speaking in Spanish and suddenly you forget what the word is in Spanish, and like, I know it in English, but I can't remember it in Spanish?
That happens to me. That happens to me a lot. I'm careful about when and where I say that, because otherwise people say, "Oh, that snob," But no, I mean, it's something that happens when your brain switches to the other.
100%, 100%. There are times in class when a 7-year-old student will ask me what something is, and I'll just be like, can't remember in English, and like I'll say I'll know it in Spanish. And my phone number, if you ask me my phone number in English, it will take me ages because I know it in Spanish. Like, I've learned it in Spanish. I've always had it in Spanish. So when I say my phone number, I can say it really quickly in Spanish, but in English, I'm like, or my national identity number. Like, I don't really know it in English. I have to sit there and I have to say it in Spanish in my head and write it down, and then I can write it in English. But it really is a thing. And I know what you mean. People think that you are being a bit snobby about it, but it's not. It's a thing. It's a real thing.
It is.
And at home, we always speak in Spanglish. Right? We completely mix our languages because my wife is bilingual. She's from Spain, but she grew up in Australia, and my daughter is from here. She's grown up here, but she's got my wife and I at home, and everything is in Spanglish.
English, Alicia, right?
Yeah.
Amazing English.
Yeah, she has. It's brilliant because she has no accent in English, but she also has no accent in Spanish. So she's so lucky, so lucky. But yeah, so she sounds like myself and my wife when she speaks in English, but then when she speaks in Spanish, she sounds Andaluza. So somebody from Andalusia, we have a very strong accent down here. So it's really funny for people to see her speaking to us in English, and then de repente hablando así en español, en plan, que dame el cuchillo, ¿eh? and suddenly, like, whoa, she's really like Andalusian, and my daughter's just like, well, yeah, I'm from here. So it's amazing to see that kind of thing. And yet at home, it's just Spanglish. It's like, pass me the mando. Like, I need to change the channel. Like, so mando, by the way, for anyone listening who doesn't speak Spanish, is the remote control.
I mean, I didn't know.
Okay, there you go. I was very careful there not to say a different word, because there's a word in Spanish that is very different in Argentina, and it means to grab in Spanish. It means to grab, but in Argentinian Spanish, it means, it's a rude way to say have intimate relations with somebody. It begins in C and ends in ojer. Anyway, it's so yeah, there's those kind of word differences, which is often quite amusing. But I remember speaking to some Argentinian people about that and saying, voy a coger mi teléfono. I'm going to go and grab my phone, but it actually means I'm going to have intimate relations with my phone. Now, Michaela says she's having problems hearing me, so I wonder if anyone else can hear me. We do have a couple of moments left now in the class. It's just about 3 minutes. Good, Tom can hear me. That's good. Can you speak, Michaela? It sounds like you've disappeared. Hello? I can't hear you, Michaela. You've gone right at the end, just as we were about to say goodbye. She's disappeared. She's looking curiously. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to unmute the Zoom call so she can say goodbye. I'm going to ask her to unmute over there, see if she can say goodbye on there. Say goodbye.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for inviting me and for having me here. I really enjoyed the show and it's been lovely.
Oh, it got a bit of repeat there. It has been an absolute pleasure, Michaela. Thank you so much for your time. As I say, it's been a pleasure. I can't wait to speak to you again in the near future. Hopefully, I'll see you at TESOL Spain this year. For everybody who's been here to join me, it is like that in class. 2 minutes left of the class. You're absolutely right there, Tom. Sorry about that. Yeah. So this has been brilliant. Thank you so much, Michaela. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I'll speak to you soon. And I'll hopefully see you around the circuit. Thanks, everybody, for listening. And good evening.
You've been listening to Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live and listen back at ttradio.org. We look forward to hearing from you next time on Teachers Talk Radio.